Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Scout YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over teams to target or teams that you should target in your Club World Cup fantasy teams. So basically going through each teams, looking at what the sort of chance they are of going through the group. So which teams then you should match up against each ones to get the target and get the best fixtures basically for each teams and hopefully, therefore, maximize your points. But before we get into the video, of course, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, massively helps the channel and helps boost it in the algorithms. Struggling to speak today, which is nice. Boost it in the algorithms. And also, therefore, get other people who like this sort of content to be able to see it as well. But yeah, let's get into the video and let's start with Group A. So you can see Group A is quite actually a tightly contested group with Palmeiras, Porto, Al Ahly, and Inter Miami. So obviously the favourites of the group, as you would imagine, probably are Porto. They've got to qualify out of the group. They've got a 61.8% chance. I've got Inter Miami down at 48.4% chance and Palmeiras up at 59% chance to qualify. To win the group, you've got Porto at 37.6%, Palmeiras at 31.1%, and Inter Miami to qualify is 22. To win the group is 22.3%. So as you can see in this group, probably the best place to target of all of them is when Porto play against Al Ahly, and potentially as well Palmeiras when they play against Al Ahly. Two quite strong teams in the sort of individual leagues. Obviously, Palmeiras in the Brazilian league and Porto in the European league. Let's move on to Group B then anyway. So again, this is even more sort of strong than the other group, with two sort of strong favourites to get through that group, and that's, of course, PSG and Atletico Madrid, with PSG having a 69.4% chance of qualifying and Atletico having a 66.2% chance. I actually think, to be honest, personally, and let me know what you think in the comments below about this, I think PSG are quite low there. I think PSG, in my opinion, are probably more, when I think about where they are and how good they are compared to these teams, I'd have them more at sort of 80% chance to qualify rather than 70% chance. But yeah, that's where the bookies have seen it. Botafogo, they're at 41.2% chance as well of qualifying. So again, them sort of Botafogo players when they play against Seattle Sounders, I think are potentially good picks. And Seattle Sounders obviously at 23.2%, as you can see there. To win the group, you've got PSG at 48.5%, Atletico at 57.4%, Botafogo again at 8.9%, and Seattle Sounders at 5.2%. Again, I think that seems quite high. But yeah, so the main thing to take from this is like you can imagine, PSG players and Atletico players against Seattle Sounders in this particular group will be a massive player. So if that's Ousmane Dembele, of course, if that's Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid, if that's Jimenez or Black, or from PSG, Desiree Doué, etc. Hakimi, I think is a really good pick at 6.5 million as well. I think there's a few. I think after them two play each other in match day one, I think that there's a real potential then to move on and get some really, really nice picks for. Obviously in the next two, when they play the next two games, obviously with the main being when they target against Seattle Sounders. Group C then. Now, again, this is quite an obvious one. And really, really strong chance, obviously, of Bayern Munich qualifying at 84.8%. I think that's probably going to be the highest in the whole of all the group stages. Auckland City, who unfortunately are a semi-pro team, down at only 2.8%. You've got Boca Juniors at 50% chance, bang on. Benfica at 62.4%. So again, you've sort of got the European teams sort of dominating, but then actually the sort of South American teams, like we've seen above with Fluminense and Botafogo, being quite strong, and actually could be an outlier. Like in all these groups, not all the European teams are going to qualify. There will be some shocks, and I think here you could easily see Boca potentially getting in over Benfica. Although of course Boca have just recently sacked their manager, so potentially not for that one. But yeah, the first game on match day one is going to be massive. You're going to need three players, I think, from Bayern Munich. It's the sort of biggest swing. I think Auckland are currently 90-1 to beat Bayern Munich, and that's in a one-off fixture, which is totally ridiculous. So yeah, Auckland City to win the group as well, 0.8%, as you can see there. So yeah, that is the big. This group's massive. I think for me, a main strategy is going to be targeting Auckland City throughout the whole competition. I think they're obviously going to be one of the weakest teams. I think they are the weakest team actually, so they're definitely one to target. Moving on to Group D, then you've got Flamengo, El Tunis, Chelsea, and LAFC. Naturally, as well, again, Chelsea dominated in terms of to qualify, 82.5% chance of qualification. Flamengo then a strong second team with 76.4%. Obviously, we know there's some decent Flamengo players, the likes of El Aransenka. Aransequeta, the attacking number 10. He's had a really strong season. I think he could be a really good option, especially when he plays against El Tunis, which I think he does in the first game, I believe. And obviously Chelsea players like the likes of Cole Palmer, etc., when they play against El Tunis, he's going to be a really, really strong option. Because I think this video is interesting because it sort of looks at, because if you like me, before you went into this tournament, you probably didn't know how strong maybe El Tunis were against, say, LAFC. But as you can see, LAFC much a stronger team than ES Tunis. So yeah, that's where the bookies odds have it. To win the group, again, Flamengo 27.7%, Chelsea 57.2%. I don't think either of the two will probably win that group. So that's Group D rounded up, and who are the best teams. So again, get your Flamengo players against El Tunis and get your Chelsea players against ES. Yeah, would I call them El Tunis the whole time? ES Tunis. Moving on to Group E then. The massive favourite game, obviously, is when Inter Milan play against Red Diamonds, Urawa. Red Diamonds, that's the strongest fixture, but also against Montreal, CF Monterrey. Oh dear. But that team anyway. God, my pronunciation is terrible. I actually recognise that as well. I still can't pronounce it, so that says it all. But obviously, when Inter Milan play against Red Diamonds and CF, I'm going to call them. That is going to be the games to target in this fixture. River Plate again coming in quite strong. Obviously, I think River Plate play either. I think they played the Red Diamonds in the first game. So the likes of Armani at sort of the 4 million price point, you can see why he's such a popular pick. And obviously the Inter Milan players as well, although they don't have a manager, I don't believe at the moment, with Inzaghi moving on to Al Hilal. Yeah, they've got a few really, really strong options as well. So obviously, like I say, yeah, Dumfries, DeMarco, Sommer, you get the idea. Thuram, I think up front's a decent option as well. Moving on to Group F. Again, this group again, you've seen two stronger teams. This is a trend in it. It's the South American teams, and it's obviously the European teams. I think the European teams probably will win this tournament, but I do think in the sort of round of 16, you will see a lot of European teams face off against the South American teams, which might be quite a nice sort of comparison to see what the standards like. But yeah, Borussia Dortmund and Fluminense being the real two strong teams in this group, of course. So yeah, these are really good teams to target. Like when Dortmund play against the Sundowns, that's definitely the thing to target. One thing that's to mention in this as well is that Fluminense obviously play against, I believe, Dortmund in the first game. So maybe that's one way because I know Dortmund assets are really nice. I think that's one way you probably hold off on Dortmund and Fluminense assets, and then you bring them in game week 2. I think that'd be a really nice transfer because obviously that Fluminense game looks relatively difficult. But yeah, I think obviously Ulsan, HD, and the Sundowns are probably two teams that you probably do want to target because they are, well, just not as good as the other teams. But obviously, look, the budgets are important in this as well, aren't they? Like these teams will not have the budgets that obviously the European and the South American teams will have. What does everyone think of Pepsi Max, by the way? I think it's a really, really decent drink. Of all the sort of sugar-free drinks, I think it's probably the one. Moving on to Group G, and actually, I thought Bayern Munich were going to be the sort of strongest team, but actually, Man City 91.8% chance of qualifying from Group G, with a 64.6% chance of winning the group. I think that obviously they're the team to target in this group. Juventus as well, really strong at 83.6% chance. So this again, it just goes to show how sort of strong, for example, Man City are when they play against Wydad Casablanca. I'll just call them Casablanca. I think they played them in the first game as well. So yeah, you get stock up. You need triple Man City. I had actually seen a lot of triple Man City as well I've seen a lot of drafts, obviously for Club World Cup Fantasy, as you do. I've not seen a lot of people tripling up on Man City for that first game, but I think that's a Haaland at 11 million. He might have a field day against Casablanca, but it also depends if he plays. But yeah, that's the situation. And Al-Ain as well. Ayan. Wow, I can't even pronounce it. It's going to got 3 letters and I still can't pronounce it. But yeah, Juventus and Man City in this, I believe, playing game week 3. So it's quite good, I think, to target Man City players and Juventus players early on in this, and then obviously take them out. If you, a lot of people will wildcard in match day 3. I think it's quite a nice chip strategy naturally. So yeah, you can wildcard them out in obviously in match day 3. Moving on to Group H, which of course is the final group. I was just checking there it is. I'm pretty sure it was. And again, Real Madrid dominating this with a 91.4% chance to qualify. They are obviously by far the strongest team in this group. What is interesting about this group, though, is actually the likes of Salzburg and Al Hilal, the bookies actually have them really level. So the fight for second place potentially in this group, as I pick my pen up to tell you that, is really strong. Pachuca, obviously the weakest team in the in this group considerably, so you'd expect them to finish bottom. But that fight for third or for second place could be really, really interesting. And of course, that with them obviously playing Real Madrid, I do think there's some decent picks from Al Hilal, like Al Dossari, and of course Renard Lodi, who used to play for Forest. I'm sure you're all aware of. But Salzburg and Al Hilal, it's interesting to see that they're on the same sort of path in terms of how good each team are. And obviously Real Madrid dominating, which is good as well because it shows that how much dominating you expect from Real Madrid in this group. Like Real Madrid are probably going to, well, they are going to win this group. So again, the likes of Vinicius Junior, I think probably underlooked at the moment, and Mbappe potentially underlooked as well. So some really, 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 really strong picks from Real, and potentially I think some defenders could be good options as well. But yeah, that is the wrap up for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Just talking over teams you should target. I hope you get a clear sort of indication there based on the sort of on the bookies average, which I think is always a good metric to go on, especially when we don't watch the likes of Sundowns every single week, which to be fair, I don't watch Sundowns. I know people do, but I'm not one of them. But yeah, thanks all for watching as always, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And who are you going to be picking, and who are you going to be targeting in your Club World Cup fantasy teams? But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and see you later. Bye for now.